Hi, everybody. Welcome to the syllabus lecture. Now, I cannot guarantee this lecture will be the best of the semester because it's on the syllabus, but it is important, and welcome to class. So I'm really glad you are joining me in this journey to discover I don't want to use a trite expression, but the amazing world of Asian American experience. It's a very diverse world. This past 2 months, I've been working very hard on this class, and I will continue to do that. I've learned a great deal. Fortunately, I had to have quite a bit of personal experience in the past. Um, that's helpful. So, and I'll get to all that later. But in any case, let's jump right in. So this is History 20, Section 52817, and there's also Ethnic Studies 20, Section 52818. So welcome to class, everybody. History of Asian Americans. And I love this piece of artwork by Amanda, and you have to forgive me. I don't want to misuse her last name, so we'll call her Amanda Thing. It looks Thai to me, but actually I need to double check that. I'll have to get back to you guys on the pronunciation for her last name. But she's a brilliant artist and very impactful. She's already made the cover of Time magazine, and she's seen a lot of her artwork has been made a big impact in the last couple of years, especially, as you guys know, unfortunately, with the stress of the pandemic. There's been a rise in attacks in the Asian American community. She was active, of course, before all that, but her artwork especially has come to the forefront in the last couple of years, dealing with this pandemic and the rise in anti-Asian violence, and her advocacy for the beauty, the complexity, the diversity of the Asian American experience. And I love this piece of artwork it has in front of you. It says, "Amplify Asian voices, proud to be Asian and stand with us." So, and that's one of the reasons why you guys are in this course. In a very simple nutshell, with a beautiful piece of art. There's also far more to the experience, but I think that's a really good way to get started. So, all right. Now, this syllabus will also be available to you guys if you want to print it out. So it's not just in the video, but I want to give you guys a video explaining the syllabus and going over what we're going to do in class together. So let's. So as in all classes, you want to read and review the syllabus carefully. In this case, also watch the lecture, which you guys are doing right now. So that way you know what's coming up. And if I need to alter things, and I will always, of course, give you guys a good heads up and let you guys know to alter things. I won't. Maybe some surprises, but always surprises with notice as I'm working on things, trying to make the class the best it can be. So, all right, so let's get to a few of the bread and bones things. Welcome to class again, everybody. So my name is Michael Lorenz. I'm glad to be a professor working with you guys. It's my pleasure to study. I learn a lot from my students, and I've already really enjoyed researching for this class, as I'm continuing to do, and it's very helpful for me too. And I'm really enjoying the process of digging in. I look forward to doing that in combination with you guys. And it's an important topic. It's an amazing, fascinating topic. It's important to us in America. It's important to the world and our democracy as we're expanding, and to the individuals within that great democracy of all stripes. So, okay. So my office in the IC building, Building A, Social Science, and my office is in 219. Now, since you guys are taking this class online, you may or may not even be on campus. But if you are, my office hours will be helpful for you guys. And but I will have Zoom office hours. For probably a lot of you, that might work better for you, the Zoom office hours. So, because there's my office phone number. Probably even the better way though is there my email. It's a great way to get a hold of me. Usually, I try to be pretty good with my email responses. Although we're all busy and I'm busy too. But I will try my best to get back to you within the day. Sometimes I can get back to you much quicker. Other times it might take a little bit longer. Depends what's going on. But okay, so there we go. So there's the Zoom information from the class. You will especially use that for Zoom office hours, and those are coming up here shortly. So let's jump in. But in any case, when I do Zoom, if you do Zoom office hours or for a Zoom discussion, that's a Zoom ID that you'll need. All right, class info. There's our dates from March 14 to May 20, which you guys probably already know that as well. And our Zoom information. So I will have a Zoom class for you guys. Ooh, and I need to fix that because that is not correct. Let me fix that right now, and I'll be right back. Okay, there we go. That's better. That's corrected. So, our Zoom class, which is optional, you guys don't need to attend this if you choose not to on some because your work schedule and availability, maybe you can't. But I would highly recommend it to you guys. I'm going to share you guys a little secret. Maybe it's not a secret at all, but it's important for you guys to know. So, now obviously you guys are taking an online class, and so there's maybe a wide variety why you guys are doing that. And online can work very well for a lot of reasons. But there is a downside to online classes, and I don't want to get into that too deep because you guys are taking one, and again, there's a lot of upsides. The flexibility above all. You guys can watch these lectures when you're available. You can work around your work schedule. There's a lot of upsides to it. You don't have to use gas to get to campus, etc. That's all good. But just be aware. I want to encourage you guys, though, to make use of face-to-face contacts, because when it comes to letters of recommendation, it comes to contact the professors within your major, wanting to have a deeper level of experience in education, wanting to understand the topic better. There's no substitute for a face-to-face. Now, Zoom is not exactly face-to-face, but it is a step in that direction. So if you are in a class that is anyway connected to your major, or you just want to get into a deeper level, the downside to an online class is you're going to have some limits. So then again, there's a lot of strengths to online classes, but there are some limits too. So I encourage you guys to make those connections. Those connections are key to education and to success in education. You guys know the phrase connections, 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 right? That's true when it comes to new jobs, scholarships, letters of recommendation, reference letters, etc. And the closer connections you make with your professors, the stronger you are and able to make the best case for yourself. The job market you guys are going into is going to be competitive. There'll be a lot of people applying probably for the job you're applying to, unless your dad or mom owns the company. In which case, you probably wouldn't need to be here anyways. But for most of you guys, you're going into a competitive job market, as you guys know. So you want to do everything you can to make sure your resume is strong and your skill set is strong. And now that's why you guys are in college, obviously. You guys are working on that. And online classes definitely are part of that. But I encourage you guys to also be smart, know how the game is played. Make sure you guys make those personal connections. And then online class, there's challenges with that. And again, there's some good things about it, but there's challenges too. That's where a Zoom class or optional Zoom class comes in handy, because you have an ability to make a much stronger connection with the professor. So if you need those letters of recommendation, you need a letter of reference, etc. If you need advice into your career you're going into, you already have that strong connection, and that'll be a leg up over your colleagues who don't do those things. So how can you distinguish yourself? How can you put yourself in the best position to be hired, get that scholarship, get that internship, get that first job, which is not easy to get that very first one, as you guys get into your career? How do you elevate yourself above your peers? So connections. So in any case, so with all that background, so now, by the way, this does not affect your grade. So again, it's optional, but every Wednesday from 12 to 1, we'll have a Zoom class, and there's a Zoom ID you have. And that Zoom class is going to be discuss the readings you have in our textbooks. And by the way, I can help you other things too. But above all, we'll focus on discussing the textbooks, the readings you had for that week. It's optional, so if you can't do it, that's fine. It's not going to affect your grade at all. It's completely optional. Again, I say it's highly recommended. I think it'd be more enjoyable. You'll learn more, and also, again, you make a better connection with your professor. But it is optional, and so it's not part of the grading metric. But I do think, by the way, it would help you grade, actually, because I think you'd be more engaged in the class, more likely to thrive. But again, there's no points necessarily tied to it directly. So if you can't do it, I know some of you guys are working, not optional, you're fine. Don't sweat that. You're fine. It's not going to affect you negatively. I'd just say it's a bonus. But the bonus is real. That's not fake. That's real. But if you can't make it, you're fine. All the things you need will be available to you guys. You'll be good. But again, make it. Okay. So, all right. With that little advertisement, the books you need for class. You need 3 books for class. The first of these is The Making of Asian America History by Erica Lee, which is probably the best text out there on the Asian American experience currently available. There's one of the good ones too, but I think that's the most up-to-date. So that's what we're going to use for our class. Second book is Thanh Nguyen's The Sympathizer, which won the Pulitzer Prize here a few years back. That book is powerful. We'll talk about that book in more detail. That book is a really good analysis of what it's like to be a refugee immigrant to America, in this case from Vietnam. I think you guys will really enjoy this book. I'll give you just a little brief heads up on this book. So the main character in the book is actually a communist spy who's in the South Vietnamese army. Now, South Vietnamese army, of course, is anti-communist. So he's secretly, of course, that's by definition a spy, but he's a communist spy, but he's actually in South Vietnam, in the South Vietnamese army, allegedly fighting against the communists. Now, the book does not go into that. The book picks up right at the end of the Vietnam War in the chaos of the United States has already left, but the Vietnamese who are close to the United States or anti-communists are desperately trying to flee in the last few violent days of the fall of Vietnam to the communist offensive. And the book picks up there in those chaotic last few days in Vietnam as they're getting ready to flee. And his communist controllers and the spy agency, actually, ironically, they've asked him to flee with the other South Vietnamese refugees to the United States for the purpose that he could monitor them and what they're trying to do in the United States. Because the North Vietnamese were concerned, North Vietnamese communists were concerned that there could be an attempt by Vietnamese refugees inside the United States to launch some counterattack back into Vietnam and cause problems. So the main character of the book, his job is to, again, maintain his cover, go with the refugees to America, live in America while constantly reporting back to his controllers in now communist Vietnam. And it's about experience what it's like to be a Vietnamese refugee in America, what it's like also in that divide between the Vietnamese, South Vietnamese community there, but also his secret allegiance to North Vietnam, well, all of Vietnam by this time period, and how he looks at things, how he's perceived by the American public, what it's like to again be a refugee, a person of multiple identities, and how that plays out, the espionage. You guys like spy novels, this novel, Nguyen, who wrote this is, there's a reason why it won the Pulitzer Prize. You guys really enjoy this. It's very rich, it's dense, especially gets to an aspect of the Asian American experience. The Asian American experience is very broad, frankly, very broad. So he's just giving you like one intense window of one person's perspective of what that would look like. But it does give us a kind of a nice case study to really analyze what would it be like to be a refugee in a very complex situation where you're wrestling with identity, what it means to be a Vietnamese person in America, Americans' perceptions of you. There's just a lot of rich context for us to dig into in the Asian American history class. So, in any case, that's the second book. And the third book is completely different, but you guys will like this too. This book is Crying in H Mart. If you don't know what H Mart is one of the go-to Asian food supermarkets in the United States. We'll talk about that later, but if you guys are curious, there's some really good examples over in San Jose, which my wife went over there just a couple weeks ago. So if you've never been to H Mart, this semester you should make a pilgrimage so you can see what we're talking about. But the book, in any case, is by Michelle Zauner. There we go. Zauner. And Michelle Zauner, her book is a memoir. And the memoir, in a nutshell, again, we'll go into this much more detail later on, is in some ways sad, but also very inspiring with a lot of life into it. So the book is primarily about her relationship with her Korean mother. Now, she is actually mixed race. Her dad is Caucasian American. Her mom's from Korea. So her parents met, and so she's mixed, which is part of the Asian American experience and the complexity of it. But she's mixed, grown up in the United States. She struggles sometimes with her Korean mother and her Korean mother's ways. Now, she's American. She grows up in America, so she's very Americanized. But also her family with her mom, she'll go back to Korea steadily. By the way, let me back up for a second. This first book, of course, is fiction. Second book is a memoir. This is her life, so this is not fiction. So, in any case, so Michelle Zauner's book, she's describing a relationship with her mother, and then she gets into, which is a bulk of the book, is her mother comes down tragic with terminal cancer. So it's the process of her caring for her mother, trying to connect with her mother, especially because as a teenager, she was not so close to her mom. There's a lot of probably immigrant experience and misunderstanding, mother-daughter relationship, a lot of complicated things going on. You'll see some of that in the book. And it's her mother's terminal battle of cancer, and it's not giving anything away, but her mother's going to pass away during the book, and obviously her grief losing her mother, but also her connecting with her mother. And a lot of that is with a comfort thing we all have, which is our connection to food. So my wife is actually Korean, so a lot of the terms in the mention Korean food gets me salivating. But she talks quite a bit about food because food is so important for culture, identity, comfort, connection, cultural expression. And so her connecting in a new way with her mother, and then after her mother's death, with one of the more powerful ways to connect with her mother, which is the shared cultural feeling and connection with food, and what that means. Of course, it's beyond just the food, of course, but what food also represents, that connection with family and love and expression. So also, it'll probably bring up some dishes you guys got to try. By the way, there's all kinds of fabulous Asian food out there, as you guys already know. That just happens to be a Korean variety there. Now, I'm kind of biased. My wife is Korean, so that really resonates with me. But we're not limited. Thank God there's actually all kinds of, you guys know, amazing Asian food. In fact, that's going to be one of your assignments later in the semester, which I'll get to a little bit later, but we'll hold off on the food thing for now. But those are the 3 books you guys need for class. We will use those extensively, so make sure you get all 3 books, and we're going to get those as soon as you can, because we are going to jump right in. Our class is, as you guys know, a compressed class. So we're going to jump right in, so there's no kind of long, like, we're getting started. So in a compressed class, you just jump right in. So it's 9 weeks, right? So you get these books, and we'll jump right in. There's a pretty good reading amount per day because of the shortness of class. But it's also a beauty of it because we can really get into the topic in an intense kind of way. There are the 3 authors right there. There's Erica Lee, the author of our textbook there on the left. There's Viet Thanh Nguyen. He's the author of Sympathizer there in the middle. And there's Michelle Zauner there on the right. So she's also a musician. She's part of a Japanese indie rock group called Japanese Breakfast. You can go onto YouTube and see her performing. Just put in Japanese Breakfast. Well, maybe it should be Japanese Breakfast Alternative Rock. If you Japanese Breakfast, I don't know what you get on YouTube. You might get someone eating, so which is fine. There's no problem with that. Maybe that might be enjoyable too. But if you're looking for her alt music group, put in Japanese, or you can put in Michelle Zauner Japanese Breakfast, and you can get an idea who she is. She's a musician, so she wrote that memoir here a few years back. Actually, when did that book come out? No, it just came out. I think that last spring it just came out. So, but her music group's been out for a little bit longer than that. If you guys are curious about her and her music, Japanese Breakfast would be a good place to start. And we'll go more into her music, and we'll go more, know a little more all these our authors as we go forward. So, okay. So, online learning platform, you guys already know this because you're here, but Canvas, of course, and Zoom, both of those would be a place where we're going to connect with each other. Yeah, I like this. I don't know what to think about this because that guy, that of course is a cartoonish version of Kim Jong-un, the dear leader, dictator of North Korea, and his visit to America, in this case, K-Town down in L.A., which, of course, has never happened. He's never been to America. Probably better for it. I like him eating a donut there and drinking. I don't know if it's a latte or what he's drinking there. But by the way, if only that was true. Sadly, North Korea, as you guys know, remains a pariah, the most closed down police state in the world, tragically. So I don't know the artist behind that. Maybe it's aspirational, maybe it's comic, sarcastic. I don't know, but I wish that was true. But the fact that it has him arriving in Koreatown down in LA, I do like that because that is real. And the world would be better if he would do that. Better for everyone, especially North Koreans above all. But okay. So let's get to goals of the course. This course is an interdisciplinary study of Asian American history from a historical, political, sociological, and aesthetic perspective. Social emphasis is based on, special emphasis is based on contributions of Asian American scholars, and I might correct that right now because that is a typo. So you can see this is on the fly. All right. The contributions to Asian American scholars, activists, by using an intersectional lens to explore the effects of colonialism, imperialism, white supremacy, and racism. Now, by the way, right here at the start is this class is both. It's both a history class, it's also an ethnic studies class. So ethnic studies has a particular lens looking at things, and we'll get more of that in the first lecture, which you'll watch after this one, what that means. So how a historian, how they look at things, and how ethnic studies scholar looks at things too. Similar, but they also have some different perspectives they bring to it. So, okay, in any case, we'll go farther into that later, but for the syllabus, I don't get into that too deep. This course offers pragmatic historical, political evaluations that aim to interest students interested in ethnic studies, Asian, American studies, and gender studies and social movements. So we're going to try to combine all that in our class, and we'll do our best. So, of course, the Asian experience in America has been and continues to be very diverse, but there are certain places in the United States where you get more of a direct feel of, I'd say an Americanized feel, but still a bit more of a cultural closeness you get with these ethnic communities. An example of that would be Japantown over in San Francisco, which, by the way, I recommend you guys for a pilgrimage. Great food. If you guys never been to Japantown in San Francisco, I highly recommend it. We'll probably talk about that later. But again, you get a little bit, again, it's only a little taste, a little bit of a taste of what perhaps it'd be like to actually visit Japan. Of course, it's not Japan, it's America, and so it's altered to some degree. But it does give you a little bit of taste. Same thing for Chinatown in various places. By the way, Japantown, LA is also pretty good. So is Koreatown in LA. So Chinatown as well too. And there's a lot. There's also little Saigon down the LA area. So there's, any case, again, that's for another day. But if you guys are looking for a bit more of the experience and a little more of a cultural concentration of these Asian American communities, national communities, these towns can be a bit of that. Okay. I like this piece of artwork by Grace Moon showing these two hands clasping each other across the Golden Gate Bridge. And one representing the United States, and one is all the Asian nations. And again, that's aspirational. I wish that Embrace is always as close and affectionate as you depicted here. And by the way, in many ways it has been, but you also know there's a lot of history there that has not how it's been. So, all right. Let's go on to this quote by James Baldwin. James Baldwin, the great African-American writer, and himself obviously battling to achieve a level of humanity, dignity in the United States as a black man, what that looked like for him. I love this quote by him, and so I use it for all my classes. So, but he writes, history does not refer merely, even principally, to the past. On the contrary, the great force of history comes from the fact that we carry it within us, are unconsciously controlled by it in many ways, and history is literally present in all that we do. That is certainly true for all communities, regardless of your cultural, ethnic, racial background. But in the context of our class, that is absolutely true for Asian American experience. You cannot understand current Asian America, and by the way, America at large, without having a knowledge of the Asian American experience in America from its earliest time till today. So, it's a wonderful quote by James Baldwin, and we'll see the reality of that as we get it farther into the class. This piece of artwork is a mural from San Francisco State University campus. It was done back in 2003, and it's celebrating really the impetus beyond the creation of Asian American or ethnic studies classes, of which our class now is a part, in the recent part. But the origin of that is actually going to be from the Bay Area, and we'll get into that with the first lecture too. And later on the semester too, we'll talk about that, the origin of that. But just in a nutshell, this is celebrating that the activism, the identity to push for an emphasis on a strong study of the Asian American experience, focusing on the Asian Americans, their response living inside the United States. So not relying so much on perceptions of their brothers, although they'll examine that, of course, but of all giving primacy, giving the focus of the conversation to the Asian American scholars and individuals. What's their experience? Their activists, what's their experience? That is a very strong ethnic studies perspective, and that mural is a part of that, and we'll get into that more as we get farther into the semester. All right, I think for time I could go through all this with a fine-tooth comb, but just talking about in a history class, and similar to ethics studies class as well too. We'll study various facts of history, naturally, but we'll also try to work with the historiography. Historiography is just a fancy way of being very thoughtful and analyzing the sources themselves. Not simply information from the source, but who is the source? What is their perspective? What is their bias? What is their hope to achieve? And so analyzing the historian or the ethnic studies thinker, writer, what is their perception, what is their voice, what is their agenda. And so you and I, as the recipients, as we read, that we go into it with an independent framework of mind that we can analyze, the story they have to tell, evidence to bring to the table, but we can do it in such a way that we can do that with an independent perspective. That we're not doing that as a young child, that we're simply told something and we just swallow it, but as a college student, that we're curious of the source, so not just the information, but of the source. So what is your deal? What is your story? What is your agenda? What is your view? And armed with that, then we can more accurately assess the story being told with us, as you guys know. So, okay. So, for example, looking for bias, goals, influence in their arguments, and how they analyze things, and to be aware of that. All right. So, and these are just talk about other things we'll do, of course, and some of the things we will do, talk about identifying a historian's thesis. We will do some of that, yep, with our two books, especially Nguyen Sympathizer and Zahner's Crying H Mart. We will write a paper based on their analysis of these sources. We're going to do that as well. We are going to look up primary, secondary sources. Yep, we're going to do that as well too, and we're going to try to see a significance of global events and their interactions. Certainly, I have to obviously understand the Asian American experience. You have to constantly keep the global experience in mind, otherwise it's not possible to understand the Asian American experience here in America. So, I like the Asian American Nostalgia Stacks, piece of artwork by Kim Nguyen. Those look to me like some Asian gummies. By the way, I've just sampled some of those, a whole variety of very good ones. I have some recommendations for you guys if you're interested. By the way, gummies are good no matter where they're from, but there's some very good Japanese fruit ones and others too. So, in any case. All right, student learning outcomes. I think for the sake of our course, I'm not sure I'm going to get into that deeply. You guys can read through that. That's really more for the professor. What we're up to is we're assessing how we're doing. But obviously that's part and parcel of what we're doing as a class, things you guys are doing. But that's really more kind of from my side of what we're working on. All right, let's get down to the bread and butter. So what do you guys need to do for class? Let's get down to that. So the first part of your class grade thing you'll be involved in is participation. So now you might be surprised because you're like, participation, so how does that work? Let me see something here. Yeah. So you're like, how does participation work? Because it's an online class, so we're not like in class. It's just a discussion. What discussions are part of this class, and we'll do that through the discussion feature in Canvas. But actually, that's the next thing. That's not this one. Participation is, and this one is, you're going to create questions in response to the readings, and these questions will be used for further dialogue. We might use some of these questions additionally in our class discussions. But in the short version, don't get lost by that term participation. Essentially, what that largely is, you're creating questions in response to the readings we have for class. So let me give you a specific example like what I'm talking about. So let's suppose you, for that week, you're assigned Viet Thanh Nguyen Sympathizers, chapters 1, 2, and 3. So for that week, or for that class, or for that week, your participation is you're going to create 2 questions per chapter. So you have 2 for chapter 1, 2 for chapter 2, 2 for chapter 3. And the questions are not a question that you'd use, like, for example, to make a quiz. It would not be a question of, like, how old was Thomas Jefferson when this happened? Well, we're not saying Thomas Jefferson, but you know what I'm saying. That's not the kind of question. It's not a fact question. It's a question that you generally don't know the answer to it. It's a question you're thinking about, like, I wonder why this would be. So let me give you an example of that. So here in the text here, you see an example of question would be in chapter 1 of Nguyen Sympathizer. A question might be something like this. And you see that right in front of you. Let me highlight that for you guys. You can see it. What happened between the narrator Bond and the drunken Marines? Okay, so that's not the. Let me back up. I'm sorry. That's not the question. Now, it's something that happened in the chapter. By the way, they get into a very intense confrontation that could have ended in violence. That's not the kind of question because you know the answer to that because you read the chapter. So it's not that kind of question. Instead, let me clarify. Instead, What you're creating is this second one, which is right here. Let me highlight that one for you guys. Instead, you're creating is, how does the narrator's mixed race identity fit into his concept of being Vietnamese and yet being singled out as being different from other Vietnamese? Because by the main character in the sympathizer is actually mixed race. So he's Vietnamese culturally, but he's mixed race. So he's half Vietnamese, he's half Caucasian. So that adds a complication to who he is, even though he's Vietnamese in culture and identity, but that does add a complication. So how does he cope with that? How does he deal with that from what you read in the first chapter? How does that affect him? That's a good question. Now, importantly, I want you guys to get this. You're not writing an answer to these questions. You generally don't know. So you have the book in front of you. Sorry, there we go. So you got the book in front of you, and you just read chapter 1. As you're reading, you're like, like, why would he have done this? I don't get it. Like, why did he do, or why did he think this, or why did this other person do this? Perfect. That's the kind of question you write down. Again, you don't know the answer. That's the whole point. This question would be used for a discussion. Now, again, we're an online class, so it's not going to work exactly that way, but this is what you would use for discussion. It's a question you generally don't know the answer to. So as you read, by this is easy. You just have your laptop with you. Again, you're reading your assignment for that week. As you're reading, just have your laptop, your desktop with you. When you come across something, you're like, why would they have done that? I don't get that. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would they have done that? Perfect. That's your question. And you're like, I don't know the answer to it. Exactly. You don't know the answer to it. That's why it's a perfect question that we would use in a class discussion. See what I'm saying? There's nothing hard to do. So the participation part of the class is quite easy. It simply is you are creating questions based on the readings. It's 2 questions per chapter. So again, so in that first week, for example, if you're assigned for that day, you're assigned these 3 chapters. For that day, you have to create a total of 6 questions. 2 for chapter 1, 2 for chapter 2, 2 for chapter 3. Now, how it works is you simply have a Word document. In the Word document, you simply save those questions. I'll make a separate video to show you guys what that looks like. So, but for this, for the syllabus, I just want to give you a little overview of what you're doing. It's easy. You simply have a running Word document. You'll turn this in twice in the semester. At the midterm, and you'll check the schedule, you will simply upload all those collected questions that you have been daily adding. Well, it could be daily, but assignment by assignment, you've been adding into this running Word document. And you'll simply upload all those questions in that Word document. Again, no answers, just questions based on the chapters. Again, I'll make a separate video to show you guys what this looks like on actual Word document. So I'll show you guys a sample. So for right now, don't worry about that. I'll put that sample video probably here. I'll put it on the assignment page for this, but I think maybe I'll also put it on the home page. So if you guys want to double check, like, what does it actually look like? I'll make a brief separate video showing you what that looks like. But that, in a nutshell, is participation. Even though there's a lot of text there, don't get lost in that. That's just me maybe going overboard trying to explain it. 2 questions per chapter of required reading. Save that on a Word document. You upload it at the midterm and at the final. So you're not doing this daily, although you are correcting these questions with each assignment. But you'll just simply be saving them on that Word document. And in the format, again, I'll show you in the short video, which I'll put here on the homepage. You can watch separately from this. This is easy to do. It's great for your grade. The only exception to this is if you choose to do the Zoom class, which is optional, as you guys know, the one perk to that is you'll have to do 1 question per chapter if you go to the optional Zoom class, which is Wednesdays at 12. That's the one, besides the perk of connection with your professor, who's me. And all that can come with that, being a smart college student and getting those personal connections. But either way, they're both graded the same. So for the vast majority of you, because your schedule, you won't be able to go to that Zoom class. You're fine. Doesn't matter. If you're doing 2 questions per chapter. Does not take you long. It's quite easy to do. And I grade that based on you just being thoughtful. All right. Now, on to class discussion. So many of you probably taken an online class from Psychology 4. You guys familiar with the discussions. If you're not, it's just an assignment within the modules here in Canvas, and you'll do involving discussions. Now, I'm trying to make discussions as enjoyable as we can. I'm not going to do a ton of these because I know you guys are busy. I'm busy too. I'm trying to make them, when you do them, I want them to be very worthwhile and also enjoyable too. So we're going to do a total of 4 of these. So every 2 weeks we'll have a Zoom discussion, and again, I want to make it impactful, so I don't want to overwhelm you guys with them. So I'm going to try to make it impactful, and so good for all of us and good for you guys too, and enjoyable too. I got some fun things we're trying to plan to make those discussions good and enjoyable for all of us, for myself as well, but all for you guys too. So, for example, I'm going to have you guys go to an Asian restaurant. I'm going to have you rate that, although I want you to be kind and thoughtful. And we'll talk about that more at the discussions. Also, there's another thing I'd like you guys to do in this case involving movies or media involving discussions. That'll also be very enjoyable. I think you guys really enjoy that. But that's just a little preview for right now. We'll get to that later. Okay. So we'll have 4 of those class discussions, which will be in modules for you guys. But modules is where we'll go, and also the homepage. So if I didn't mention this already, so a couple ways in my class. I try to keep my Canvas page relatively simple. So the things you look at in Canvas will be, of course, modules, as you guys already know. You just follow along sequentially in modules, see all the assignments, all the readings there, all the lectures will all be recorded for you there. It's really nice, and I'm going to try to keep it fairly simple with that. Now, the home page will also be very important for you guys, whether you're using your phone or using a laptop. Now, if your phone's a little harder, because in the phone, when you open up that Canvas app, right, you have to actually select the home page. But the home page will have a lot of easy user info on there, too. Have the class schedule for the whole semester there. You can have some other quick, handy links there on the home page that you guys want to have access to. Watch announcements, of course, as you guys know. I will periodically put announcements of upcoming assignments, the homework, of course, weekly, friendly reminders of assignment being due shortly. Anything else that comes up. So watch announcements, of course, check modules, check the home page. Those are primarily the just 3 main areas in Canvas you're going to need. Okay, so back to things you have to do for class. So the third thing is I will have 4 videos for you guys to watch in class. I'm going to try to have a wide range of them. Some more contemporary aspects of Asian American culture, because there's a lot going on right now, and some a little more of a historic nature. But I'm going to have a range of those, and you'll do a written response to those, which you can see right there. Now, I won't detail that right now because I'll get to that more when you actually get ready to do one. But essentially, it's going to be a 2-page response. The first page essentially is a summary of the video, and the second one is going to be a thoughtful examination of it, and also creation of 2 questions based on the video. So we'll get to that later on, but there'll be 4 of those. The last 2 things, there's going to be a critical analysis paper due at the very end of the semester. It's going to be based primarily on the books, The Sympathizer and The Crying H Mart, which I don't have with me on my desk because it's at home. I'm finishing up right now. And also your textbook too, Making Asian Americans by Erica Lee. So your paper we built primarily on those things, although I might add a little bit extra too, some of the videos you guys are working on too, and your experiences. So including maybe your trip to Asian restaurant of choice, some other things. So I'm going to have some variety packaged into this final analysis paper. It's going to be good. And again, I'll give you a prompt for that, and I hope you guys get ready for that, but that'll be at the end of the semester. So right now, don't sweat that right now. And finally, there'll be 2 exams in the class. Exams are going to be based on the lecture. I'll take good lecture notes. As I lecture, I'll try to always make sure to emphasize what's most important for you guys. Oftentimes, I'll highlight it, so when you guys are taking notes, it's always good to have your paper handy. Nice thing with a recorded lecture is if I talk too long, you can just pause. You come back to it. Get a drink like I'm doing right there. Additionally, a nice thing with a recorded lecture is you can pause to write things down, right? Unlike in class where my professors move at their own space, you can see, I guess I'm talking kind of fast right now. Maybe it's the tea I'm drinking right now. I'm not sure. But in any case, nice thing with recorded lectures, you guys know you can just pause, right? You can just pause and write things down. But the nice thing for you guys practically get back to the exam, what that allows you to do whenever I highlight something and say, hey, this is really core, perfect. You can just pause for that moment, write it down, and you'll use those notes on the exam. The exams, by the way, are open note, which is, there's a nice thing about that, right? So open note. That's not open other sources, but there's open notes. So when you get ready to take your exam, you can have all your notes right there. So you guys should all do exceptionally well in the exam because you'll have your notes. So take good notes. It'll be available to you on your exam. I couldn't do otherwise, right? It has to make it open. So it is open note for the exam. So you have all your notes all lined up there. Exam starts. Of course, you want to review them ahead of time, but you can quickly go to the right section. Like when we talk about this, I remember, oh, that's right. And you go right to notes. Oh, there, that's right. There we go. Perfect. And you're getting an A. Again, if you take good notes and you study them. Okay, so how does this break down? So grading. Participation is worth 150 points. Remember, that is you creating questions to your readings. Sympathizer. Erica's Lead, The Making of Asian America. And Michelle Zauner's book, Klein H. Mart, which again, I can't hold up to the screen because it's at home right now, laying on my bed. It's my last thing to do before I go to sleep at night. I'm just finishing it up. It's powerful. You guys will really enjoy it. So participation is you guys creating questions based on those readings. By the way, it's not going to be, I take that back, it's not going to be based on this book. I don't want to mislead you. The question based on the readings is not based on this one. We'll use this book, but the questions are not based on that. It's based solely on Nguyen Sympathizer and Michelle Zauner's Klein H. Mart. Classroom discussions, well, I mentioned those already. They're worth 120 points. The documentaries, we'll do 4 of those. Those will be worth 100 points. Your equivalent analysis paper, do it at the very end of the semester, is worth 150 points. And there'll be our 2 exams, and those worth 100 each. So that's how you see how the points break down. It's pretty evenly spread out. We should extra credit options as well, too. I mentioned how the Asian American experience is a very diverse one. We can't even in our 9 weeks together begin to get to the depths of what that experience is. But it is a very diverse experience. And we'll get more into that in our first lecture. And frankly, for the whole rest of the semester, for that matter. But the first lecture, we'll get into some examples of that. So when we say Asian American, it depends how you divide that up. Some scholars put that into 24 groups. Some put it in the 30s. Some put it in the 40s. Some put it in the 60s. So there's a lot of complexity there depending on how you slice up the pie of the Asian community as a demographic unit. So, okay. Last few things here about the end of the syllabus here. Quizzes, makeup quizzes. But we don't really have quizzes in our class. We do have exams. But if there's late work for some reason, it depends why it's late naturally. So if some emergency comes up or something comes up, contact me. I do that on a case-by-case basis whether I allow you to submit that late. So the best policy is just don't be late. And that's not good for you guys either. We're in a short-term course. It's 9 weeks. It goes by lightning quick. Falling behind is not going to work for all kinds of reasons. But absent students risk being dropped. Now, again, we're not actually in person in class, but absent means if you have no activity. So you guys probably know this, right? Your professors can actually see your activity on Canvas. So if you're a no-show on Canvas and you're spending 0 time in the class, there's a good chance you'll be dropped from the class. If you either drop the class, protect your GPA. Make sure you guys drop it. Don't presume your professor could drop you out. By the way, I do some dropping, but I don't do a lot, frankly. So if ever push comes to shove, I tend to lean toward not dropping. So if for whatever reason you don't like my videos or my ties or my office here in the background or whatever, you're annoyed by my occasional drips of drinking of tea, whatever, more realistically, work situation, some company just can't do it. I encourage you guys to protect your GPA. It's really easy to drop a class. You can do it online, but protect your GPA, drop the class. Don't get an F on your GPA for a class you weren't even attending anymore. It's not fair. It's not good for you, not good for financial aid. So protect your GPA, drop the class if you need to. Academic dishonesty and cheating. Oh, this is the big one. This is a big one. So, and in the online world, honestly, and I probably don't need to explain to you guys, there are certain students who this is a high temptation for you. I would just recommend to you, if you don't have moral qualms with it, some of you guys have a strong sense of morality, you would not do it because it's, for lack of a better term, it's wrong. Others of you, that's not really, may not be your metric. I'll be more practical then. So if it's not right to do it, and that's not going to work for you, let's get more practical. More practical is the consequences of doing it are pretty severe. So it could be to fail the course. Could be notification of activity, depending on how serious it is. Professors are pretty good at catching it. So be thoughtful about that. So if some little demon appears on your shoulder and like, do it, cut and paste, call a friend, you know. So the consequences are pretty serious. So I highly encourage you guys. I always tell, like, for example, big temptations with the papers and the write-ups to go online, cut and paste. It's not really your own work. We got pretty good software. Not just software, we also have pretty good software up here too. So both software we use, but also this thing right here of experience. So we're pretty good at sniffing out what's not yours. The consequences are painful. So I always tell students, like, let's go worst case scenario. You got that little imp on your shoulder saying, cheat, plagiarize, cut and paste. Look, a bad paper, like, let's go worst case scenario. You were not able to put the effort in you wanted to. But turning in a bad paper that's your own original work is still worth points. By the way, I want excellent papers from you guys. You guys should strive for excellence. I'm simply saying worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, you turn in a paper that's not so good. Okay, but worst case scenario, that paper is still worth points. But if you plagiarize, that's a guaranteed 0, which oftentimes is catastrophic for your grade. So anyways, that's enough said about that. You guys, if you want more about that, there's a link to the Merced College's Academic Odyssey page. But just I'm telling you, every semester there's some people that learn the hard way. Don't learn the hard way. So there is some good extra credit available to you guys. I might make a brief video on extra credit specifically. Maybe I think I'll do that. Make a brief video on extra credit for you guys. But there's some good extra credit available to you guys. There's movies you guys watch for extra credit, places to visit. Keep that in mind. Look for a video. I'll probably post that probably in the extra credit module. An assignment in the modules, and also I'll probably make a brief video on extra credit. That'd be good for you guys. So, but just keep that in mind. Things you can do for extra credit. And we're about done, because most of these things apply to in-person classes, which is not applicable to you guys because you guys are at home. So most of these things are for more in-person. But there are a couple of these that apply to us. Civic dialogue, civic academic dialogue, and respect for pluralism. So this will come to fore primarily in the discussion page. So just be thoughtful with your fellow students. You may disagree with their perceptions. Welcome to college, right? You might think, I disagree with you. I don't like that opinion. That's fine. But it just means be respectful, be thoughtful. So even in our disagreements, you can disagree with the idea, but don't be disagreeable as a person, right? So you can take a very strongly different view, and you can hold that view very passionately. By the way, that's America. Thank God we can do that, right? It's our rights, our freedom. It's a whole different view, very strongly, but treat that person with respect as you may disagree with them. Be thoughtful about that, of course, right? So academic respect for all, academic excellence for all. So we can be honest with each other without being personal with each other. So maybe someone expresses something in a discussion page you disagree with. Hey, you know what? Great, we're adults, we're big kids. We're big kids. We can hear something I disagree with. I'm not going to shatter, I'm not going to break. I heard someone I disagree with. Now again, I'm right to disagree with them, and I can do that. But I don't make that personal. I disagree with the idea. I disagree with the conclusion, but not with the humanity of the person who said it. So, and that's it about that. You guys know what I'm talking about. Be thoughtful with each other. American Disability Act, there are very good resources here on campus. If this would be you, please let me know that, because there are special things we can do to make your experience more accessible to you, and I want to be a help to that, so just please let me know. Last one is sexual misconduct. Again, we're an online world, so actually, online world can be a real fraught place, as you guys know, right? But hopefully in the context of our class, that should be a non-issue. But if ever something does come up, please let me know immediately. There are things here in class. Again, our class should be a very safe environment for this kind of discussion, so there should not be anything going on. But if there would be, please let me notify immediately. There's also our campus web source to please take prompt action if you see something that you believe is a concern to you. We want to make sure the campus, and in this case, our class, is always a safe place for everybody. All right, and that's it. Much more to come, but welcome to class, everybody. We're going to have a really good semester together. The books I chose are fabulous. They're going to be excellent, and we're not limited. We're going to do in our lectures, in our discussions, the videos we watch, and the things you guys do, above all what you do, and your explanation of this topic is going to be a really enriching experience for all of us. So, all right, everybody, that's it. We'll see you with the next one. Take care, everybody.